Have you ever thought about how it starts? It's usually so quiet. So quiet, nobody even sees it happen. You've got a child, right? And they're looking at their parent who's just falling apart. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's rage. Maybe it's this deep, empty sadness. And in that moment, this kid makes a silent decision. And that thought, that's the exact moment everything changes. It's like the switch just flips in their brain. Suddenly, they have to become the emotional thermostat for the whole family. And man, what a heavy, heavy weight for a kid to carry. And just like that, a child disappears. I'm not talking physically, of course. This is a psychological vanishing act. The kid learns, really fast, to smile when they're sad, to hold back tears. They become an expert at reading the room, figuring out what everyone needs before they even think about what they need. They basically become a miniature adult long before they're supposed to. And here's the really twisted part, right? The world praises this kid. Oh, you'll hear it all the time. She's so mature for her age, or he's so responsible, such a strong little one. But all that praise? It's just wallpaper covering up this huge, invisible sadness. And that's the real question, isn't it? At what cost? Because trust me, the cost is massive. All that praise, it just reinforces a survival strategy. And that strategy, the one that got them through childhood, can turn into a cage when they're an adult. It ends up shaping everything: their friendships, their love life, their career, how they even see themselves.
So what's actually going on here, psychologically speaking? Well, there's a name for this. And just knowing the name can be the first step to finally understanding it all.
It's called parentification. Basically, it's when the whole parent-child dynamic gets flipped upside down. The child is forced to become the emotional support for the adults. And it's not just unhealthy. This literally rewires a kid's developing brain. It forces them to play a role they are absolutely not equipped for. And they learn to wear all these different hats, right? They become the caregiver, always making sure everyone else is okay, or the peacekeeper, constantly trying to stop fights. Sometimes they're the therapist, listening to grown-up problems a kid should never have to hear, or the protector, trying to shield their family from harm. They get really, really good at managing everyone else's feelings. And what's the deep-down lesson they're learning through all this? That their own needs are dangerous. That if they ask for something or show they're hurting, it could make everything fall apart. So they just push it all down. They learn that love isn't a given. It's something you have to earn by being helpful, by being quiet, by being perfect. So what happens when this kid grows up? Well, those coping skills don't just magically vanish. No, they echo. They follow them right into adulthood. And they create these really complicated, hidden struggles that can feel so confusing and lonely. This is where you get this huge, painful disconnect between what people see on the outside and what's happening on the inside. Everyone else sees this super mature, responsible, strong person, but on the inside, they feel hypervigilant. They're not calm and mature, they're constantly scanning for threats. They're not just responsible, they're always performing. And they're not strong, they are just deeply, deeply tired. And this is so, so important to get. These aren't personality traits. This isn't just who they are. They are survival strategies that got hardwired in. That hyper-independence, it's not about being stubborn. It's a bone-deep belief that you can't rely on anyone but yourself. That feeling of guilt when you try to relax, it comes from learning that your worth is based on what you do for others. These are all just the echoes of a childhood lived on red alert. And that's the real tragedy of it all. The exact things that saved you back then, your strength, your ability to read a room, your resilience, they become a prison later on. That seam armor that protected you as a kid now keeps you from feeling real connection, from truly resting, from just letting go and feeling joy. Okay, so if any of this is hitting home for you, the big question is, now what? Where do you even start? Well, the good news is, the way forward isn't about blaming anyone or getting lost in the past. It's actually about turning inward with a lot of kindness and starting a new journey. And it can start with one simple but incredibly powerful question. What did I need back then that I never got? Asking this it's the first step in learning how to reparent yourself. For a lot of people, it might be the very first time anyone has ever turned to that little kid inside and asked what they needed. Maybe it was safety. Maybe it was permission to play. Maybe it was just the chance to be messy and imperfect, to just be a kid. You can think of this journey home to yourself in 3 parts. First, you have to witness your past, really see it for what it was. Second, you have to grieve what was lost. And third, you start giving yourself what you always needed. And that first step, witnessing, it is everything. Seriously, before you can change anything, you have to be able to look back and validate your own experience without minimizing it. So many of us get caught in that trap of, oh, it wasn't that bad, or, well, other people had it way worse. Witnessing means dropping all that. It means looking your own story in the eye and just saying, yeah, that was really hard, and that wasn't fair. This is really the core of what people call shadow work. And it's not some scary thing about finding all your flaws. It's actually about turning toward the parts of yourself you had to abandon to survive, the scared little kid, the angry kid. And you finally turn to them and say, I see you. I am here now. I'm not leaving you anymore. It's about finally letting yourself feel all that grief, all that anger that there was never any room for back then. And look, this work is tough. There's no doubt about it. But what it's really about, at its heart, is taking your power back. It's about shifting from a life that's all about just surviving to a life that's about actually becoming, about making choices for yourself. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung had a great quote for this. He said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And he was right. Looking at your own story, really looking at it, hurts. But it's also the only way through. It's the only way to really heal and break free from the patterns of the past. And I want to offer you a different way of thinking about this. Healing isn't about becoming some totally new person. It's not about erasing who you are. It's actually about remembering who you were before the world told you who you had to be. It's about finding that person who existed before you had to put on all those masks. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Your maturity was never the problem. Your strength wasn't the problem. The problem was that you had no choice. But here's the thing. Now you do. You have a choice. You can choose to ask for help. You can choose to rest. You can choose to have needs and to voice them. You have a choice now. So I'll leave you with this thought. You may not have had a childhood. That's true. But you still have a whole future ahead of you. The past is written. You can't change that. But it does not have to be your prologue forever. Your story is no longer being written for you. Now, you're the one holding the pen. So how are you going to write it?